Well, the new $25,000 electric truck. Is America really ready for this? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Good afternoon, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you got a question for me, please go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. There is a link at the top of the page. Just click through and send me a question. I'll get you taken care of. That's all at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. Every Friday afternoon, we do the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. And today, Tony Joe is here with me to talk all matters concerning cars. Unfortunately, we have some things we want to talk about that isn't such good news, but so a lot of innovation that's happening. We'll get to that. Talk a little bit about your AC and some of the things you should be considering and what might be going wrong, as you might be having some problems with it. Really, Tony Joe, we're starting to see the hot weather really starting to happen. The triple digits starting to be forecasted, and you're gonna see. Do I have some flaws, or is my AC in good shape?
Yes, it is. Now it's fixing to get hot, and the water spigot's going to turn off, and it's going to get hot. But this is not news to Texans. This has happened every year, and a big high-pressure ridge sets up shop right over the central part of the state, and it just gets hot and dry. Having said that, I would like to point out something to the listeners out there that are older than dirt like me. Where were you in 1980 on this day? This day represents to me every year. This is the 46th anniversary of my first summer in Texas. And let me tell you, on this day, 46 years ago, I was called into the office where I was working at a garage that I was working at, and I thought I'd done something wrong. Well, the boss wanted to see me. I went in there, and he said, I want you to drink this Dr. Pepper and sit in the office for a minute, and then I want you to go home. And I said, why? Because I thought I did something wrong. Mm-hmm, he said, Tony, it's 113 today out there right now.
And that's not inside the garage.
That's
outside.
Real temp, not heat index, not anything.
Yeah, but
real temp.
But in the garage, it's got to be even hotter, right?
Oh, I'm sure, because you got cars running and Anyway, the point is, Bob, today 26, tomorrow 27, and on the 28th, big reprieve. We dropped down to 112. We had to put coats on. But the point I'm trying to make is the summer of 1980 was the hottest summer ever on record recorded to this date in Dallas, Texas. And back then, with the heat and all the things going on, and people were shutting down their businesses because it was so hot and going home, even years after that, I never heard anything about global warming or anything. It was just a hot summer. And it stayed hot for, I think, 40 days, over 100 degrees. It was a long, hot summer, and it was my first summer in Texas. Coming from a guy from upstate New York, almost near Canada, where the snow builds up to the power lines in the winter, it was quite a radical change for me.
Now, and I can't remember what year it was, but we missed breaking that record by
2011.
By one day.
Yep. 2011.
I was so disappointed because
you know what that one day break was?
Yeah, like 99.
99.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I do remember that. Very.
Yeah, but even the 2011. No, I'd grant you, it was hot summer.
But it wasn't as hot as what
never
you're
got
talking
to
about.
113
right.
for 2 days. It was still not the hottest. So, I just think about that every June 26th.
So do you remember?
I'm sure a lot of people don't even remember anymore.
Do you remember back then when that happened, there being problems with the electric grid?
Actually, I don't.
That's really weird.
And the other thing is, no, I don't remember it.
Because you think that would definitely be the issue.
You would think so. I've never been asked that question, but I don't remember losing power ever during that period of time. no air conditioning. I mean, it's good to get home. I lived in an apartment then with my wife, and it was good to get home and get inside the AC, but I don't ever remember blackouts or brownouts or anything.
This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Let's talk a little bit about Slate Automotive.
Okay.
There are some things I really like about this, about what's coming down the road with this particular company. Mm-hmm. There's some things that really bring up a lot of questions as well. Definitely want to get your input into it. But what this is all about is the cheapest truck, brand new truck that you can buy in America. $24,950, I believe, is the base price of this truck. Now, what's interesting about it is that it is an fully electric truck, and you started with the base, the base model, but you can custom design, literally not option A and option B. I mean, it's almost unlimited
add-ons. Yeah.
What you can do, that you can build this car from scratch. Mm-hmm. And so I look at it and think on the surface, wow, what a great idea. And this could really revolutionize the automobile industry. But then I also start to think, as far as the automobile industry goes, this is nothing new under the sun. I'm sure that all of your manufacturers have thought of how can we take and make the most money off of a widely produced car that is designed to save people money. Mm-hmm. And if someone would have done it or tried to do it, they would have done it by now. But that's what, this company's trying to do at this point.
Well, think about it like this, Bob. Nobody's going to do anything unless they can make some money at it. So, the profit that's going to be attained on each unit may not be big enough for, say, GM, Ford, or Chrysler, Stellantis. They got to make so much money. Somebody's got to make money to do anything. So here's the way I look at it. Maybe this is what I like about it. I'm not going to say anything. I have no opinion about this automobile yet because I want to see what happens. But I do like the fact, number one, that it's a startup, American startup. It's built, designed, and produced right here in America. That's one thing I like about it. Number two, if it works, then God bless them. I mean, I hope they do good. It's not a bad looking little truck.
It really is not a bad look. The base model is right. It's not a bad looking truck.
And I think if it's practical and it works. See, Bob, we don't know anything about the range. Yeah, it's an electric truck, but we don't know anything about it yet.
You don't know the details.
You don't know whether it's, the range is only 112 miles and you got to charge up. Well, I don't know anything about the details
That would
yet.
be problematic.
But it would be interesting to see this company do good. And I would hope that they advance and advance and advance and keep going with their technology. And it really comes to fruition. I'd like to have a vehicle out there that people can afford. $25,000 is still, Bob, that's still a lot of money for an automobile. Not by today's standards, but $25,000 there's nothing cheaper than that.
Here's a couple things to throw out there. First of all, the potential number of mistakes, the mistakes that cause for recalls. I mean, if you've got it's got to happen, because you think about the efficiency that they're going to have to level, that they're going to have to run at. I mean, it's going to have to be almost perfect to pull the kinds of dollars and costs out of this that they're projecting. So you got to wonder, just one recall could be pretty significant cost-wise for a company like that.
Yeah, it could be, but don't forget, here's one thing that people don't realize. The government subsidized Elon's Tesla company for years and years and years.
Right.
So there are possibilities to keep them afloat if something catastrophic were to happen to their little company. But overall, I think that I'm really not ready to give much of an opinion on it because what are the crash test ratings? What are the battery life? I need more details to figure out whether this is something see, Bob, what I'm getting at, is it a good car for like just running around downtown, going back and forth to work? Or is it a car that you can drive to California on a long trip?
Right.
What do we know about this car? Because there's nothing wrong with having a practical little car that's great if you're just going to run around and do errands in town and stuff. So a lot of questions, but I like the fact that it's an American startup company, and I hope they do good, and I hope they advance with technology and it produces an economical, affordable vehicle that young people can buy without going. A lot of these young folks, I try to talk them out. They'll finance a car for 8 years to be able to afford it. I said, you can't afford that car. Yeah, I can. Well, not for 8 years. If it's 8 years, you can't afford it.
Well, I think the problem is when you start thinking about 8 years, if they were to keep it,
but you see my point.
Keep it for 8 years, drive it for another 5 or 6 years, and get the full amount out of it. Yeah, they're paying more from an interest standpoint, but they paid the thing off. They didn't have negative equity, but that's not always what happens.
That's not very likely.
Right, right.
Because
there's two sides to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and plus they're young kids.
Yeah,
they're not going to want to keep that car for 10 years.
Of course not. It makes me wonder about the battery. What's the cost of the battery? You think about from a consumer cost, what, $7,500, $8,000, something like that? It's expensive.
For a hybrid battery, maybe.
Well,
you're talking about an EV?
Okay, so let's take a step back.
Okay.
Electric vehicle, then, what do you think the manufacturer's cost is on a battery? I mean, it's as a percent of $24,950. It's got to be, if you're looking at this one cost, a good percentage of it's got to be the battery, right?
See, here's the thing. Yes, you're bringing up my exact point, and I'm glad you asked that because the battery can't be, let's just say the battery, let's just pick a number out of thin air, $12,000 just for the battery.
Yeah, right.
Well, now, if you got to replace the battery after 2 years, because a battery that's $12,000 is not a very good battery. I mean, a real EV battery for like a Tesla, I think, is in the 20s, like high teens, low $20,000. So if you got a battery that doesn't have the extended life like a Tesla would, and you got to charge it up every, say, 100 miles or so, maybe 150. Well, the battery itself probably isn't going to last that long, and it's going to be cheaper than a Tesla battery, but it's not going to have the range. So you've got to include that in your financial estimate of, is this car economically going to work for me, or is it going to be great until I need a new battery and then I'm broke and I can't afford it?
Well, here's what's interesting. They have and I think I remember this correctly, a 10-year, 70,000-mile warranty on the battery and something else. So it makes me wonder, is this going back to what Hyundai used in
you mean Slate has that?
Yes.
Oh, great. I didn't know that.
But here's the question, though. Is this also a situation, and I don't know what the limitations are on it, by the way, but is this a situation where we're kind of going back to what some of the Kia models were, that once they got to 60,000, they were considered a throwaway car? It's just, I've always been you said that just many, many, many years ago. Of course, that's not the situation today. I mean, they're a very, very solid car company. Cars last for a long time. But the whole idea of, I think we brought up the example of a plasma, not plasma, but a high grade TV, and it gets to a point where you don't have TV repairmen like you did when we were kids, but it just gets to a point where the thing's coming apart and making noises, and you throw it. You think about, wow, this thing, I can't believe I'm sitting this out by the garbage can or recycling it or whatever you do. But I just wonder if you're going to see this as a potential move towards the throwaway vehicle.
Possibly. We're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, I like what I hear about it so far, but I don't know a lot about it. However, a throwaway car seems to me that you're going to have a lot of problems if you aren't making a good amount of profit on the car for the car company slate to be able to survive. Now, the 10-year, 100,000-mile thing about Hyundai, let me just point out, that was introduced as a vehicle for them to use to get market share. They wanted to break into the market.
Right.
They offered this 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and people went, wow, let's buy one. But they soon found out not everything was covered on a 10-year, 100,000-mile, especially a lot of the things that naturally broke, brakes and shocks and things that wore out. I mean, that stuff wasn't covered.
And so you look at it from the standpoint of a cheaper battery, just because it does less than the super battery that you're going to see in a Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So you take that lesser of and this is just a curiosity, and you may or may not know the answer to this, but it makes me wonder if you can get more out of a cheaper battery. And when I say cheaper, a battery that's just covering the 100 to 150 miles, and you have to recharge it. Are you getting more out of that than you would the bigger battery that lasts longer?
See, here's the thing you're not considering in your factoring, and I'm going to just point this out to you. The bigger, better Tesla batteries also weigh more. Now, you have to factor this in, Bob. Think about a car that you're going to drive down the road. It's an electric vehicle, but it still takes a certain amount of power from either a battery or an engine or something to be able to motivate that thing, to maneuver that thing down the road. Well, a bigger, better battery has better range, but it's going to take more power from the battery to operate this vehicle under normal circumstances. So if you go back to the smaller slate truck, it may not have the battery capability that the Tesla would, but it doesn't weigh as much either. So you're driving less weight, in turn getting better range. So there's a fine balance there in physics that would have to be calculated to find out if this is going to be something for you or is it not going to be for you, because I can see it going either way because I don't have enough information on this thing yet.
So I look at that truck, and it's a very cool looking
truck. Pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not what you think it would be. And I think to myself, $24,950. I'd love to have a truck like that.
Why don't you buy me one too, and we'll just go bombing around. You get yours and buy me one, and we'll just.
Secretly, that's what I was thinking.
Just for fun at night, we'll just bomb around town.
So but here's the question though: you see a lot of good things in this story, but you see a lot of question marks in this story.
Yes.
Would you be an early adopter? Or would you say, hey, I'm going to wait 12 months and just kind of see how this pans out?
To buy one or to invest in the company?
To buy one.
No, I definitely would not be in line to buy one, no. My first impression is it's a piece of junk. But the more I find out about it, the more I like, but there's an awful lot of information that I need to know.
Yeah, there's like with anything, there's a lot of information, and I kind of go back to, this is one of those deals where, and you got to realize, I mean, they're starting from scratch. They're pre-ordering allowing you to pre-order a car. Mm-hmm. One other thing they had on their website that I thought was very interesting is they had Slate, so I think they called it Slate University, where they had all these videos on, this is going to make you cringe, how to make certain repairs. If you're a seasoned professional down to a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just cringe when I think of, could you really build a car that's just plug and play? Pull this module out, replace it with this module, and it's fixed. All you have to do is just order it from wherever, and it'll be sent to your house. I mean, what do you think about that?
That's an interesting concept.
You've never
really
seen that,
kind of
right?
interesting. I've never seen that, but Wouldn't it be nice if you had a car that you could buy for $25,000 and you could actually not have to go to the mechanic and pay tons of money just to get it repaired? Online, do-it-yourself stuff. I'm sure you couldn't do everything, but a lot of things you could fix yourself. That's a really interesting concept, business model. That's pretty cool. I'm going to be excited to watch that company.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting story. I had heard nothing about it until the other day. I saw an article on it, and definitely wanted to bring it up to your attention because it is something that very cutting edge. I mean, Tesla is very cutting edge, obviously, in what they're doing. But going back though, this is a priced for perfection. Financial model that this company is running. So you just gotta wonder, have they really thought through things, or are they kind of assuming some things that could be a little shaky?
Right. I agree. We need more info. Right. I agree.
It will be interesting. So we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. I want to talk a little bit about Volkswagen. Get your initial thoughts off of this. Volkswagen is plans to cut 15% of its workforce and close 4 German plants. Now, you could start listing off the things that are really happening. We're having a severe recession in the automobile industry, but we're not. I mean, that's one thing you could blame it on. So that I don't think that's really the case. They're going to bring massive investments into AI, and in order to pull that off, they got to cut now, and have that money to pay towards implementing that type of technology in their car making. Catherine was telling me a second ago that she saw pictures of full robots that are shaped like a human being, actually putting these cars together, which that's a whole nother story.
Right.
And it could be one thing that Porsche has been very hesitant to talk about is they are a financial train wreck right now, having severe losses. They lost $1.1 billion just in the third quarter of last year. I mean, that is tremendous amount of loss. So talk a little bit about what comes to your mind when you hear some of these things going on.
Do you know this fact, by the way, because you keep up with that stuff more than I do, is the luxury sports car industry in general over in Europe, the Lamborghinis and all the sports cars that are produced, are they all in sales slumps? Do you know?
I don't
or
think
is it just
I don't think so. I think what Porsche has done, and they started this 10, 15 years ago, is that every year they took their flagship 911 and they added 8-10% of a price increase. Yeah. And nothing's really changed. I mean, you could look this model year for some of the older Porsches is going on 10 years now. I mean, they look the exact same. So it just can't warrant a price like that.
Well, possibly they've increased the price to the breaking point where their sales are down. Sales eventually are going to decrease when you get to a point in time where you just can't sell these cars for this price. You're not offering enough product for the demand that you are asking financially. So I would have to say Volkswagen in general, just my opinion, just my opinion, Europe is going green. Europe wants a lot of green technology. They really want to do away with carbon footprint. So here's what I think. I think sales are slumping. I think the European car manufacturers like Volkswagen are decreasing in sales due to green energy and AI, like you said, and some of the other advents of technology.
A lot of interesting overlay moving parts going on, especially in this environment.
But we do live in interesting times. Isn't it fun to watch all this stuff?
Fun's not the word I would use, but
I think it's great.
I'll call it interesting. This is Bob Brooks, and you've been listening to the Special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. If you got a question for me, please go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. I'll get you taken care of. We are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.